So I'm Michael King from Massachusetts Family Institute and joined this morning with President and General Counsel of Massachusetts Family Institute, Andrew Beckwith, and also Pastor Nick White from Victory Baptist Church. And we wanted to tell you this story about what's going on in Dedham at Victory Baptist Church with a pastor that's really trying to follow the current rules set up under the COVID-19 guidelines, and how the local government is overreaching regarding their relationship with this particular church. So I want to give it over to both Andrew and Nick, and thanks for joining us today, Pastor Nick.
It's my pleasure, and I appreciate you guys giving us the time to basically talk about what's going on with us. And just to run through it quickly, we on Sunday night called the local authorities. We called the chief of police's office just to make them aware that we were planning on reopening our services within the guidelines of the order. We're a church plant, so we're renting our facility right now, and we were sure to promise our landlord that we would follow every guideline in the order so that we could reopen. So what we decided to do is we decided to have multiple services with 10 or less people in it. And we called the chief of police to let him know. And Monday morning, I got a phone call from the health department telling us that we are not able to meet. And I was sure to tell the health department all of the measures that we were taking. We're taking temperatures at the door, masks and gloves required. We're going to hand those out at the door as well. Social distancing in place. The two different services to keep things under 10. We were following every single order in place. We were sanitizing everything in between services. We gave it about an hour and a half to wipe everything down and to make sure everything was nice and clean when people came inside. We were sure to go above and beyond, but even with all those guidelines, unfortunately, the health department told us that we would not be able to meet, and they said that if we do, that they'll send us an order to cease and desist. And I didn't really think, they would actually do that. So, I thought it was maybe intimidation tactics. And we kind of just called our attorneys and let them know that this was the case. And so we went forward throughout that week and got a call on Wednesday. I tried to get a hold of them again to get this warning in writing. And I asked for them to send me an email because something over the phone that's just verbal, it wasn't really enough or clear cut for me. I needed something saying that we cannot meet. And instead of sending us a written verbal warning, they sent us yesterday a cease and desist. And it was a cease and desist. I've got it right here. And they sent this to us, and we didn't even have a service yet. They sent us a cease and desist when we haven't even started. And we're following every guidelines, and the basis that they're saying, the grounds for why they're telling us we can't gather is because simply the fact that church is not listed as an essential business. And we are meeting all of the guidelines, all of the requirements that Governor Baker has put in place, every single one of them. We are dotting every I, crossing every T, and still we were handed this cease and desist. And so that's where we're at right now.
Pastor Nick, look, you're doing everything right. And you shared with me that cease and desist order, and I read it, and it's hard to believe that they would send that to you because they talk about you violating the governor's order when in reality what you're proposing is specifically in line with the governor's order,
Right.
which allows churches and houses of worship to keep their doors open and have the public come in to do the work of the church if they're 10 people or less, which is specifically what you're saying. You've got that clearly on your website. You've got sign up slots for the two different services, so you can keep it 10 or less with your church plant. Now, it's interesting that you said it was the local health official that sort of nixed this thing for you, because that's kind of a pattern, I think, of what we're seeing. There was a pastor down in the Cape here in Massachusetts that wanted to do a drive-in service for Easter and had, again, all the social distancing protocols in place. And there were a number of churches that went forward and did that and were allowed to do it. I went to one on Sunday at my church, and it was fine. And that pastor got approval from the local authorities. And the pastor down in the Cape had gotten approval from the local authorities there as well. But then the health department director for the town there weighed in at the last minute and stopped it. Now, interestingly, since that time, all over the country, there have been numerous federal lawsuits for churches who were stopped from having these drive-in services. And I think they've been pretty much universally found to be unconstitutional, that the state cannot bar a drive-in service when you've got all these other entities that have, full parking lots or drive-through restaurants and things like that. Now, in your situation, it's not a drive-in service, but in some ways, I think it's almost a stronger case because you're in direct sort of obedience to the governor's order, and for them to then come and say you can't do it, man, I hope your attorneys, get that in court or somehow hold these local officials accountable. I know they're probably trying to do the right thing, but look, if we're all supposed to follow the governor's order, then the local authorities should be following the governor's order and not
Right.
what appears to be singling out a church and preventing them from meeting, which is really a shame. So you're doing all the right things, and hopefully this gets resolved quickly.
Thank you.
We hope you all have a happy Mother's Day, and I pray that you're able to go forward and maybe get either an emergency motion or a quick resolution to this so that you can celebrate Mother's Day, with your flock in multiple, 10 and under services. It'll be an intimate gathering, properly social distance. So hopefully that works out for you, and appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Yeah, it's no problem, and we're hoping that we can push for this cause that church is essential. Church is essential, and it's essential constitutionally, but it's also essential biblically. And we need to stand up for this right now, and we're doing it. We're respectfully challenging. We're going to fight it, and we're going to do it with the right spirit and the right attitude. We're not trying to stick it to the man. We're just trying to do things the right way, and we're just trying to have church. We're not trying to be rebel rousers. So I hope that's made clear with all of this, and I hope that that's the attitude that we can all have, all of us pastors, that we could go forward with that mindset and mentality, just respectfully challenging things, but pushing and standing for our rights as a church.
Great. Thank you, Pastor Nick. Hope you get back to the ministry that you are called to, and quickly.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks again.